promoting dialogue.
It's midday in Dakar, 1 o'clock in Praia. Good afternoon and many thanks for staying tuned to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and worldwide on wadr.org. Welcome to Newslink, and here are the top stories. Mixed reactions trail 5-year extension of the transition in Burkina Faso.
On ne change pas une équipe qui gagne, nous sommes contents. En voyant, il y a beaucoup de choses qui sont avancées. Depuis que
You don't change a winning team. We are happy.
Façon que le président fait là, ça nous satisfait. Donc, comme ils ont ajouté 5
We
ans.
only pray for good health and peace of the country for these 5 years that they have requested for.
At least 7 people killed and 200 others abducted in Nigeria's Niger State attack. Sahelian states organized military drills against jihadist threats, and Liberia to complete the repatriation of citizens from Ghana within 90 days as the first batch arrives in the country.
It was very, very tough because we've already been frustrated, nothing level us. The company is empty-handed. We don't have money to even buy food on the road for ourselves.
Please stay tuned for details of these stories and more.
Here is Imo Edit with Newslink.
Many thanks for joining us, and a warm welcome to our listeners in the Gambia, Ghana, Liberia, and Sierra Leone. In the last 24 hours, reactions within and outside Burkina Faso have continued to trail the extension of the transition period for 5 years. Residents of the capital city believe the extension will enable the military authorities to build upon the progress already made. The extension follows a 2-day national consultations meeting with stakeholders held in the country. Here is a thought from citizens in Ouagadougou.
On ne change pas une équipe qui gagne, nous sommes contents. En voyant, il y a beaucoup de choses qui sont avancées. Depuis que
You don't change a winning team. We are happy. We are seeing there are a lot of things that are being advanced on their rules.
c'est là-bas, presque Burkina a été divisé en plusieurs morceaux, mais on sent maintenant que c'est en train de se souder. Ils ont dit que
If 5 years is what they want, no problem. At this moment, we want to gain our total sovereignty.
souveraineté totale.
Mais on a vu les équipements qui sont mis au profit de nos forces armées parce que de par le passé.
But we've seen the equipment that has been made available to our armed forces, because in the past, you didn't need to be in the armed forces to know that there was a lack of equipment. So what we've seen is a big step forward. In any case, you can see that quite a lot of things have been done over the past 2 years.
Il y a eu pas mal de choses qui ont été faites.
Façon que le président fait là, ça nous satisfait. Donc, comme ils ont ajouté 5
We only
ans.
pray for good health and peace of the country for these 5 years that they have requested for.
Il revient en paix.
Comme il est devenu président du Faso, donc ça peut
We hope
l'aider.
that he develops the country, just as we the people also wish.
C'est que nous aussi on veut.
We're going to be speaking there on the extension period, where we do have more on this development and I guess interview segment. Meanwhile, in Mali, Senegal, Maiga supporters are up in arms against the military authorities. In a memorandum published at the end of last week, the movement from which the Prime Minister hails, he opposed to the military remaining in power for several years. They also denounced the fact that Maiga is not involved in certain major decisions. Echatiso has the rest of the details.
In their 4-page document, Sugar Maiga supporters indicated that the colonels currently leading the country have deviated from the ANA Pact signed between the two parties on May 24, 2021. For them, it is out of the question for the military to remain in power for another 5 years. According to Ousmane Dao, a Malian political analyst, this statement indicates tension between the Prime Minister and the ruling military. The M5 RFP faction, which supports Sugar Maiga, has accused the military-led transitional authorities of sidelining the Prime Minister and failing to involve him in major policy decisions, despite his position as head of government. For the political analysts, this further isolates the head of government. In a parallel statement, the other branch of the M5 RFP has accused Sugar Maiga of hiding behind the movement to settle scores with the transition authorities. On March 5, the M5 RFP dismissed the Prime Minister from his position as chairman of the Strategic Committee.
Ajatisu filed a report. And to security matters now, the Liberia Union Committee for Peace, Security and Social Cohesion in Niger has expressed concerns over the resurgence of terrorist attacks in recent weeks. At a press briefing, the civil society organization made proposals for a way out of the crisis. Ogibirika has more details in this report.
The Tillaberi region in western Niger, which had experienced a prolonged period of relative calm, has recently been struck by a resurgence of terrorist attacks. In response to this alarming development, the Tillaberi Union Committee for Peace, Security and Cohesion, a civil society organization dedicated to resolving the security crisis in this area, has spoken out. After carefully assessing the security situation in the wake of the latest series of attacks, Amadou Aruna Meiga, who is the coordinator of the Tillaberi Union Committee for Peace, Security and Cohesion, said the citizen organization now plans to present proposals to the current military government. Their aim is to find a genuine solution to put an end to the ongoing crisis that has been plaguing the region. The western Niger region has remained the hardest hit by the security crisis since 2017, having displaced thousands and led to the closure of several schools.
Ogibirika found that report still on security matters. 5 Sahel nations have been holding a major military drill in western Niger, according to the Defense Ministry on Sunday, the first such exercise in a region racked by jihadist violence. The Sahel region has been plagued for years by rebels linked to Al-Qaeda and Islamic State group. Abdul Hassan has more details in this report.
According to the Nigerian Defense Ministry, 5 African nations, Burkina Faso, Chad, Mali, Niger and Togo, have since last Monday been holding a large national exercise at the Special Forces Training Center in Tilia, west of the country. It noted that the drills include tactical maneuvers and initiatives aimed at strengthening ties with local populations. The exercise, which is due to run through June 3, marks the first joint military exercise between the 5 countries. Military regimes in Burkina Faso, Niger and Mali have pushed out troops from France, the former colonial ruler, and are increasingly turning to Russia for support. The countries set up a mutual defense pact, the Alliance of Sahel States, and in February announced their withdrawal from the West African bloc, ECOWAS. Successive coups in the 3 countries in recent years were driven by a deteriorating security situation exacerbated by humanitarian and political crisis. Togo is one of the West African countries that has adopted a more conciliatory tone with the military regimes that came to power through coups in Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger. The Tilia Training Center, which hosts the exercise, was funded by Germany and has been operational since July 2021. In September 2022, the United States equipped the said center with military equipment costing $13 million, consisting essentially of several types of hardware, including armored vehicles.
Abdullah reporting there.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
In Nigeria, no fewer than 200 people were reportedly abducted by gunmen in the north-central state of Niger on Friday night. That attack occurred in the Munya local government, resulted in at least 7 deaths, including 4 members of the Joint Security Task Force. The bandits' attack also left several villagers wounded. WDL's Usman Marina, Abuja report.
The bandits, estimated to be around 300, arrived on about 100 motorcycles and operated for over 3 hours without resistance under a downpour. A source who pleaded anonymity testified to WADR via phone. They looted shops and homes, taking goods and drinks. The local government chairman, Madam Aminu Najume, confirmed the attack and expressed frustration at the lack of support from the neighboring Kaduna state government. The security agents who attempted to ward the bandits off were overpowered, and no reinforcement arrived until the next morning. A statement from the local government chairman indicated this attack comes just 2 weeks after a similar incident in the area where 30 people were abducted and are still in captivity. The Nigeria Police Force Niger State Command did not respond to calls and messages attempting to get their comment on the incident. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, Usman Omar reporting from Abuja.
Staying in Nigeria, 3 people were killed and 7 others injured when a mosque collapsed in the Papa Jao area of Mushin, Lagos State on Sunday. The mosque located on Yusuf Street of Ladipo Road collapsed while prayer was ongoing. according to the permanent secretary of the Lagos Emergency Management Agency, LASEMA, Femi Osanyitolu. The final casualty report showed 3 fatalities and 7 casualties of varying severity. The affected buildings were completely leveled. Responders at the scene included LASEMA's response team, the LRU Fire Unit, Lagos State Fire Service, LASBA, NEMA, Nigerian Police, FRC, and LASEMBOS. Photos and videos on social media captured the mosque in ruins, with residents trying to assist in the rescue efforts. Elsewhere in Liberia, the head of the Refugee Repatriation Resettlement Commission has revealed that all stranded Liberians in Ghana will be repatriated within 90 days. The first batch of 770 stranded Liberians who were repatriated from the Buduburam refugee camp in Ghana arrived safely in Liberia following nearly 4 days of travel by road. On Tuesday, May 21, the stranded Liberians began their journey to return home after the local Ghanaian authority evicted them from the Buduburam refugee camp, citing their prolonged stay in the country. WDL's Anything Popper completes the story.
It was a joyous occasion as traditional leaders in central Liberia welcomed their fellow citizens back home following decades in Ghana as refugees. About 4,323 stranded Liberians have been earmarked by the Liberian government to be repatriated in phases back home. Upon the arrival of the first batch of 770 people at the resettlement center in Bangabon County, these returnees explained the difficulties they experienced while making their way to their home country, Liberia.
It was very tough because we've already been frustrated, nothing level us. We don't have money to even buy food on the road for ourselves, but they give us the insurance that we'll be eating 3 times a day. I'm happy that I want to be reintegrated.
Head of the Liberia Refugee Repatriation and Resettlement Commission, Patrick Wozi, disclosed that all stranded Liberians in Ghana will be repatriated within 90 days and reintegrated with their families.
The process is for a period of 90 days to ensure that at the end of the process, we'll bring back to Liberia 4,323 Liberians who are stranded migrants.
Speaking on behalf of the host community, Bon County Superintendent Howard Norris praised the returnees for coming back home and urged the public to provide support to help them start their lives.
Please take care of them. That will be moderate with them because some of them will have problems. But gradually, we have people, the counselors and other people, then they will talk to them and they will be able to calm down and find their family. Some of them don't even know their family places, but we'll try to find them.
For now, the Liberian authorities have assured that all of their citizens currently stranded in Ghana who are willing to return will be voluntarily repatriated to Liberia. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, I'm Darlington Popper reporting from Central Liberia, Bon County.
You're listening to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, 94.9 FM Dakar. Here is a reminder of the top stories. Makes reactions trail 5-year extension of the transition in Burkina Faso. At least 7 people killed and 200 others abducted in Nigeria's Niger State attack. Sahelian states organized military drills against jihadist threat. Liberia to complete the repatriation of citizens from Ghana within 90 days as the first batch arrives in the country. And still ahead, we do have a newspaper review, the guest interview segment, and sports news. Please stay with us.
West Africa Democracy Radio. It's you speaking.
Well, don't forget, we are streaming live on WADR.org, YouTube, and Facebook. Let's bring you some financial news now. In Ghana, an economist and currency analyst has dispelled the claims by Ghana's finance minister that the city is still strong. The finance minister, Dr. Amin Adam, in a recent press briefing on the state of the country's economy, reassured the public of the city's resilience despite recent depreciation trends and concerns raised by businesses over the development, which they say is taking a toll on their finances. From Accra, Nadi Detete reports.
During the ministry's monthly economic update, the sector minister Dr. Amin Adam addressed growing concerns, emphasizing the currency's considerable stability throughout 2024. According to him, while the city has experienced fluctuations, it has maintained a relatively stable trajectory over the year. Several financial analysts have projected that the Ghanaian cedi will soon hit between 16 cedis to 18 cedis to the dollar. However, Dr. Amin Adam noted that despite recent pressure on the exchange rate, the currency has largely stabilized over time. The minister emphasized that the cedi is strong.
People may see the cedi depreciating fast recently. If you compare the depreciation year to date, from January to date, the cedi has depreciated by about 14.2%. Same time last year, it depreciated by 20.7%. So on that, comparative basis, we are safe to conclude that the cedi is still strong, very strong.
However, economist and currency analyst Courage Buti disagrees with the minister's assertion that the cedi is strong. According to him, the strength the minister refers to is only at the interbank level and not on the retail market.
I don't think anyone needs to say that the cedi is strong. It is not strong, but probably related to the margin of depreciation last year. Maybe it's looking better, but only on the interbank market. If you look at it on the retail market, relative to last year, we are a lot worse than last year, really, from the numbers I look at.
Mr. Bosi added that there could be a reversal of the trends, but it will not be easy. For WADR, Nadidi Teti, Accra.
In a related development, inflation rate in the Gambia has shown a notable decline and is anticipated to decrease in single digits by the end of the year, according to the central bank. Additionally, diaspora remittances have surpassed $200 million in 2024, serving as the primary source of foreign currency and contributing to projected economic growth exceeding 5%. WDL Sankle Janky Manjo tells us more.
The Central Bank of the Gambia says that despite concerns about the stability of the country's currency, the dollar-C exchange rate has remained stable. According to the Central Bank, inflation has also fallen from 14.9% to 11.0% as of March. Boasedi, the governor of the Central Bank of the Gambia, elaborated on these developments.
Looking ahead, if there are no sudden surprises, especially in global commodity prices, inflation is expected to decelerate to single digits by the end of 2024.
However, despite these positive indicators, there is a rise in commodity prices, a development the bank has attributed to ongoing geopolitical tensions.
Private remittances remain the largest source of foreign currency, with a total inflow of $203.7 million in the first quarter of 2024.
Despite these encouraging signs, the Gambia's economy still faces significant challenges, particularly its inability to generate sufficient exports. This export shortfall hampers the country's ability to achieve a more balanced and sustainable economic growth. In response to these challenges, the Central Bank's Monetary Policy Committee has recommended maintaining current monetary policies to meet inflation targets and stabilize the economy further. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, I'm Sankula Jankari reporting from Banjul.
This is the Newspaper Review. Stay abreast and find out what the top stories are in your country.
This is the Newspaper Review.
The Newspaper Review.
We head now to Abuja as we join us tomorrow for the Newspaper Review.
Hello and welcome to the Press Review segment today. With me, Usman Umar from Nigeria's capital, Abuja. As usual, quite a number of national dailies to take a look at, and many stories actually made it to the front pages of the papers. But prominent among them, we want to start with the First News newspaper. And First News is leading with this story. It's a developing story from Kano. That is the commercial center of Nigeria. Kano Emirship crisis escalates. Sanusi Bayero holding court from separate palaces. There is a rider to the story. Protest rock state, adding to growing tensions. Arewa group demands immediate exit of Bayero for peace. Northern traditional rulers urge calm. Another story, of course, Obasanjo's verdict on Tinubu's government. Necessary decisions misguided, fueling economic impoverishment. This is President Olusegun Obasanjo, former Nigeria's president, who is making comment on President Tinubu's 1 year in office. And according to him, he says necessary decisions were misguided. Labor issues 14-day ultimatum to Governor Oti to implement 30,000 naira minimum wage. We move over to the last story on the front page of the First News newspaper. Tomato crisis. Nigerians grapple with soaring prices as one big basket now costs 100,000 naira. Let's move to the Blueprint newspaper, which is going to be our last paper for the day. The Blueprint is leading with this story. Federal government drags governors to Supreme Court over local government autonomy. And there is a rider to this story. 6 stoppage of caretaker committees, joint allocation, others. Now, federal government has realized that over the years, monies meant for local governments don't get to them. In Nigeria, of course, the 3 tiers of government are expected by Constitution to operate independently when it comes to finances, and that's why every month the revenue sharing is done to federal, state and local governments. But over the years, as a result of a provision in the 1999 Constitution as amended, state governors have hijacked the resources of local governments through a local government joint account, which enables the state governors to collect all the resources, monthly allocations due to local governments into one account. And then there is a committee called Local Government Joint Account Committee that now decides how much each local government would get as against what they ought to actually get initially from the federation account. And it's on this note that we draw the curtains on today's edition of Press Review from Nigeria's capital, Abuja. My name is Osman Umar, and it's back to you in the studios.
Many thanks, Usman, for the newspaper review.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
Well, let's take you back to our first story on the transition period extension in Burkina Faso, which has been generating reactions locally and internationally. This decision came at the end of a national dialogue held over the weekend. Some stakeholders agree on the extension for 5 years. Recall the military seized power in the 2022 coup and had promised to hold elections in July of this year to restore civilian rule, but it also said security considerations would take priority. Now, the charter also allows Traoré to run for president when the elections take place. Well, I guess governance expert OSIWA takes a look at this development.
The current crop of military leaders in West Africa have come with a whole total new idea, different from what had happened in previous years when military intervention in African politics was high. These young folks are extremely determined, learning from history to know what to do. The extension of his tenure has nothing to do with the people's wish at all. However, the people will always sing and praise their effort in countering or fighting terrorism and all of that, even though the people also know that this man or these leaders are doing nothing. Truth be told, in Mali, where extension has also happened, and now in Burkina Faso, these 2 leaders are very oppressive. They descend on decent voices without mercy. If you go against them, you are ready to go against the moving train. So nobody wants to conflict them. Nobody. So what will just happen is that once they say this is the way to go, everybody sing aloud and move on. You recall in Burkina Faso, once you criticize the government, particularly for not fighting insurgency, you are giving a gun or giving some arms to go and fight those insurgents or those terrorist organizations. Rather than to take responsibility, these military regimes are using the people and inciting fear to undermine their pushback. Mali soon just changed. Now Burkina Faso took their leave. Hopefully, it doesn't get to Niger. But one will be surprised. Why are they not even learning from Chad? After all, the 4-star general, who is more senior, to be a 4-star general compared to the colonel and all of that, they are far apart, decided to relinquish his military mind to become a civilian, even though the AU has not formally accepted some of those changes. But it's better than holding on to power in an arms shift.
What impact then do you think this will have on the plans by ECOWAS, to bring Burkina Faso back to the bloc? And do you think this is as a result of an influence from the Sahel Alliance?
For ECOWAS, to date, the Sahelian states, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, has not truly agreed, or they've not formally communicated to ECOWAS of their plan to reverse their total exit from the regional bloc. However, I think that from grapevine ECOWAS is using all avenues to see what can happen. But at the end of the day, if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. But in all honesty, this country will suffer more if they pull out from ECOWAS, if they pull out from the bloc. With all due respect, most of these countries, in fact, the countries, the three of them, does receive certain subventions from ECOWAS. Although one can argue that Russia can easily meet those gaps. Russia is a country meeting the needs of three other countries. And the implication of that is, after a time or after a while, there's going to be huge challenge because the peoples of those countries will not have the same kind of gains in terms of movement of goods and services between countries in the region. And that's going to be a very feedback that will be bad for them. There'll be due pressure. Of course, there'll be pressure. But I think 5 years for Burkina Faso will be too long for us to hear the next story.
Osenagbe is a governance expert. Now let's join Zankli Janko for the latest in sports news.
Hello out there, a warm welcome and thank you for joining us. Egyptian giants Al Ahly have been crowned champions of CAF Champions League for the record 12 times after a 2-1 second leg victory in the final against Esperance Sportif de Tunis over the weekend. Once again, the Egyptian giants reigned supreme as kings of African club football following a tightly contested match at the Cairo International Stadium. Following a goalless stalemate in the Reds last week, the Egyptians went into the clash with a slight advantage over the four-time African champions Esperance. Al Ahly's goal of the match came courtesy of an unfortunate own goal by Roger Aholu after a header by Rami Mustafa came off the inside of the defender's leg to beat young goalkeeper Aminallah Memeshi in the 4th minute. And in basketball, the 2024 ball playoffs quarterfinal matchups have been set as Tunisia's US Monastir defeated Angola's Pedro Ledwanda 70-67 thanks to Ferraz Lahiani's spectacular buzzer beater from behind the arc, according to media reports. Meanwhile, Senegal's AS Douanes beat Nigeria's Rivers Hoopers 63-57 in an all-West African affair. And that's it for sports. It's back to you.
And we've come to the end of this edition of Newslink from West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Mustafa Sek and Maudajuf for the technical assistance. Let's keep the conversation coming on all of our social media platforms, X, formerly Twitter, Instagram, WDR News. Coming up at the bottom of the hour is our flagship health program, Well Buddy, with Oge Bierika. I am Imo Edet. Good afternoon.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM, New Me FM 94.0,
Hilltop Radio 104.7 FM,
and Veritas Radio 102.9 in Banjul, the Gambia.